there, this is Susie back again, and today she is going to talk about Rex begonias. Rex begonias are the type of begonias that is not a family of angel type, which is a cane type of begonias, or the wax type of begonias. I mean, they do have tubers, they do sort of a very good plant to have in a coolish type of temperature, not necessarily frosty type, but when I say coolish, they prefer a bit of coolness around the roots, and they thrive in a very much of a tropical areas. So this particular one is Rex type, which is called the Escargot, or you could say it however you feel like it, and people do either say Escargot or Escargot. So it doesn't really matter how you pronounce it. I mean, it is obviously sounds like more French to me than anything, but it could be even Latin. So Escargot is a particular cultivar in front of me, and most of these begonias are either been hybridized or they have been tissue cultured to give different formation. Now, what I would like to show you, hopefully this particular one here, one of the very prominent escargot has is how you can see right in the central of its leaf, it has got a very pronounced curls in the leaf. And this is a showpiece because it looks like a snail all curled up. And I think that is the main feature of this particular plant. Plus, it appears to have very olivey type of leaf under certain light, as you can see, gives you that shimmer of olive. And then outside you will see some silvery bit, which is very nice to actually have a look. And people buy them for their color. And there are many different types, varieties, colors of Rex begonias out there. But a lot of them say it's the hardest one to keep alive is actually the escargot. Now, I'm not sure why it can be difficult, because most Rex begonias do like temperature above 15 to 25 degree mark. That's the ideal temperature, and it loves over 50%. So you're looking at around 50 to 65% of humidity. And that's another thing that these particular plants like. They do not like dry air. So if you think that you have dry air, you need to either have some sort of humidifier or have a saucer underneath the pots and fill it up with a bit of pebbles and things and sit your pot on it for a bit of moisture generated by this particular plant and the water that it sits on. So it acts like a humidifier. So that's one of the things you can do to give them the humid conditions that they like. And they all also like the warmth. So make sure they are thriving in a warmer environment. And thirdly, they are very thirsty, hungry feeders. They do like moisture, so you make sure that you do supply them constantly with water. it does not mean that when you do provide them with water that the soil really loves it. And that's not the type of water it really likes, because it's more likely you're going to rot the tuber or the root rots, and all the leaves will then just fall apart. Now, when I say water, number one, you have to make sure that the soil that you use is a very, very fast, quick drainage soil, which means as soon as you put the water through it, it must come out more or less the same amount the other end, which is right at the bottom. It just like to have the water flushed really quickly and come through the rooting system fairly quickly. And it does not like retaining water at all around its root. So make sure you use a lot of perlite, which is a good drainage thing that you can use, and use cacti succulent with chunky sort of orchid mix to go with it, and maybe a little bit of peat moss, but not a great deal, as long as the drainage is really good. And I was talking about feeding. They are great feeders, which means you have to fertilize your begonias just about every month except winter, because when it goes into dormancy it does not require feeding. So that's when you stop, maybe for 2 to 3 months. Other than that, as soon as spring hits, make sure that every month from then on right up to autumn you feed your plants. It likes the slow release, which is the NPK. If you can find a slow release fertilizer, just half a teaspoonful or something like that away from the roots, you just lay it on the outside of the roots for the slow release, and make sure that it's rich in nitrogen, because that's what makes the leaf very healthy, having the nitrogen, a lot of nitrogen in the plant, and also the phosphorus and potassium. The potassium is very vital for the formation, the texture, and the flowers. You know, if it does produce flowers, but most begonias are for their foliages, because that's why we have Rex begonias, to admire their foliages rather than the flowers. So when you're feeding them, so NPK, and make sure that the NPK has the number 10 written across the board: 10 nitrogen, 10 phosphorus, and 10 potassium. That's the ideal rate that you need to have, rather than having odd unbalanced fertilizer. So make sure you also plant them with, it really loves lots and lots of humus, and that's how they grow naturally in dead leaves matter plant and all this nice decomposited matter that it really loves. But then again, you have to make sure that the drainage goes with it, because if the drainage is not good, you're more likely to start rotting the roots, or everything starts to fall apart. It just goes wishy-washy, it goes meshy. So you just got to be very careful there. So I think I have spoken about most things. And the lighting. Rex begonias love very early morning sunlight. Make sure you show your begonias with very early morning sun. You may ask why, because it's usually very dim sun, and also very late afternoon sun for about half an hour to an hour. That's all it needs to have the sun shining on them. It just brings out the beautiful color that it needs with that sun on them. But during the day, make sure that you do provide the brightest indirect light to your Rex begonias. And so lighting, as I said, bright light, you put them in very bright light. Don't forget to show a bit of sunshine first thing in the morning or last thing in the evening, last sun of the day. They just love it. and the warmth. Make sure you provide warmth, and the warmth goes with the humidity, so make sure it is surrounded by over 50% of humidity. It's no good having any lower. Another thing, it hates council water. It hates hard water. So test your water, test the pH, make sure that it is slightly acid, the soil plus the water. That water needs to be the softest water, which means try to feed your Rex begonias with rain water, because, or distilled water, but if you can collect rain, it's even better for your Rex begonias. And sometimes you probably notice that around the leaves, it gets a bit brown edges, you know, around the leaves, and that is really caused by hard water, because if the water is alkaline and if the water has got a lot of chemicals, and one of them especially has got a lot of salt in the water, sodium, and Rex begonias cannot digest or take up any form of salt. So what you need to do is make sure that you do not provide hard council water. Rainwater is best, and if you want to avoid why your leaves are going brown on the edges, is possibly that it is taken in salt, and it obviously has, and the only way the plant can get rid of it is through the edges of the leaves. So that's where the salt coagulation or the soil formation is, and that's what it causes. It's got to get rid of it somehow, and that's the only way it can get rid of it, to throw it outside of the leaf and hoping, you know, it will just go away, because Rex begonias definitely cannot digest any type of salt or chemicals in the water. So be mindful about that, because I know a lot of you say, oh, I can't keep my begonias and they die on me, especially Rex ones and this and that. And unless you know the environment, the type of place it likes to be, and if you don't provide some of those ecosystem, you know, it's just not gonna stay alive. So do keep an eye on your begonias. As you can see, I've got plenty here, and they have been well planted and in mainly peat moss, which I would be changing the soil to suit my environment and to suit the drainage, because drainage is vital, very important for any Rex begonias. They do not like holding water. So that's why they are very tropical, where it rains heavily, and that's where they really thrive in the very humusy, decomposed matter. So in the wild, you know, it's how it survives. We need to provide similar type of environment for these Rex. Thanks for watching my video, and I hope I have given you some ideas or the conditions some of these plant likes. Thank you, and we will see you again. Bye for now.